right? So we have multiple developments in Julian Assange's case. Absolutely explosive. And this is the thing about his case, is that there are so many things, there are so many indications of foul play by the British government, the American, the US government, the Swedish government. It's so clearly a political witch hunt and persecution. And so it's one, it's one bombshell revelation after the other. So right now, I want to show you an article that appeared very recently in an Icelandic newspaper. Okay? Take a look at this. This is in Stundin. Okay? In Stundin. And what does the headline read? The headline reads, "Key witness in Assange case admits to lies in indictment." Right? A major witness in the United States Department of Justice case against Julian Assange has admitted to fabricating key accusations in the indictment against the WikiLeaks founder. So this appeared 26th of June, 2021. And here is the man in question. Okay? So his nickname is Ziggy the Hacker, but his full name is Sigurdur Thordarson, if I'm saying that correctly, right? Sigurdur Thordarson. We'll just call him by his nickname, Ziggy the Hacker. Now, you might have heard of this guy before, because he's actually in the indictment and the ruling of Judge Barretza, and he's listed as teenager in those, okay? So I'll get to that in a second, to the ruling by Judge Barretza. I want to show you something from there. But basically, this guy, I want to tell you the story of how he how he comes into play with WikiLeaks. So basically, Assange, he goes to Iceland. Okay, this is back in 2010, 2011, and he works with government officials there. Right, they want to create some sort of offshore haven for whistleblowers, and it's like an anti-corruption endeavor. Right, and at the time, this guy on the left, Ziggy the Hacker, he volunteers to work for WikiLeaks, to work with Assange. And it turns out what he's done, right? He ends up impersonating Julian Assange. And he ends up embezzling around $50,000 from WikiLeaks, right? Selling through online sales of merchandise. Right, so he basically stole $50,000 from WikiLeaks, and amongst various crimes, right? And he spent basically the last decade in jail. He's been convicted of various sex crimes. He's been diagnosed as a sociopath, etc. But what you need to understand here was very important, is that back when this was happening, he sent an email to the U.S. Embassy in Iceland, and he offered to be an informant in the case against Julian, right? So he offered to work with the Americans against Julian. He offered to be a rat, or as they say in the UK, a gross, right? And this is really interesting because within 48 hours, they sent a private jet for him. Yeah. You had several agents from the FBI, I believe, who were sent there to question him and talk with him. And, I mean, when Iceland found out that they were building a case against WikiLeaks, against Assange, with this guy's cooperation, they sort of kicked them out. They told them to leave, and then the FBI ended up going with this Siggy fellow to Denmark to complete the questioning and so forth. But it just shows you, they sent a private jet for him immediately. It just shows you the level to which they're trying to go after Assange, even back then, right? This is 10 years ago, right? So they're trying to get dirt on him. And, this is obviously not the full extent of it, because now we know that he wasn't just embezzling money from WikiLeaks and pretending to be Assange, impersonating him and offering to work with the Americans back then. No. He's also falsified his testimony as a key witness in the indictment, right, against Assange. So you must understand something. You have 3 indictments that have been unsealed against Assange, right? And the last one, the latest one, the superseding indictment, this came out in June 2020, right? And what was clear about this indictment is that there are no new charges in it, okay? Where Ziggy the Hacker factors in is not for the 17 counts under the Espionage Act. He factors in under what is known in the media as the hacking charge, right? So this is conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. And, what's the whole point of this charge? Why are they charging Assange with this? It's not because it's true, the reason they're charging it with him is because they realize that if they only use the Espionage Act, it becomes very clearly not just a political witch hunt, but also an attack on the press, right? So people would wake up and be like, yo, this is violating the First Amendment. This is violating God knows. I mean, hey, we got a lot of violations with this case, right? Beyond just the First Amendment. And so the reason they use a hacking charge, as it's called in the media, is because they want to paint Assange not as a journalist, but as a hacker. Right? They want to smear him. And this is actually very funny because not only is it untrue, he's not a hacker, but even if he were, hypothetically, it doesn't change anything because he still has the right to publish what he published. I mean, this is unequivocal. But nonetheless, it's not true. And they've only put this charge in there because they want to paint him as a hacker. And this shows you how they care so much. You know, how the U.S. really invests in damaging, Assange's reputation, smearing him, the character assassination. This is very crucial. And it's so funny because you have idiots like David Frum, these neocons, and equally these liberals, like all across the board in the United States, right, who think that the hacking charge, as they call it, is about the 2016 elections. It's nothing to do with 2016, right? They think, oh my God, he's working with Trump. No, Trump is the one who unsealed the indictment against Assange, first of all, right? But regardless, this hacking charge has to do with so we're talking about four things here: the State Department cables, the Iraq war logs, the Afghan war diaries, and the Gitmo files, Guantanamo Bay. It's nothing to do with 2016. Nonetheless, when they unsealed the superseding indictment in June 2020, it becomes clear that they've expanded the timeline from 2010 to 2011. They've expanded it from 2010, 2011 to 2010, 2015, I believe. And they've included what they called conduct, which is basically like narrative, basically like key, witness testimonies from people like Siggy over here, to make Assange look more guilty and more culpable, and so that even if he didn't actually commit a crime, they could still have a chance at extraditing him. You understand? So it's just about character assassination. It's just about adding more weight and credibility to the bogus charges, right? That's what it's about. So there were no new charges, but they added like these lies, these fabricated testimonies from Ziggy the hacker. And what does he say? So he talks about. He talks about the fact, well, not the fact, it's not a fact, it's a lie. He talks about this myth that Assange and him were working on hacking banking files, and that they wanted to get recordings and hack into the Icelandic parliament. So there are various things, right, that he claims Assange asked him to do, or that he was going to do with Assange, that are completely untrue. And he admits this himself. He says this right now in Stunden, right? So he's saying this himself, that all of this is just made up, right? So just to go back to the article, it says the man in question, Ziggy the hacker, was recruited by U.S. authorities to build a case against Assange after misleading them to believe he was previously a close associate of his. In fact, he had volunteered on a limited basis to raise money for WikiLeaks in 2010, but was found to have used that opportunity to embezzle more than $50,000 from the organization. Okay, so this is the initiative that I told you about. And then if we go down over here, as we said, he's referred to as teenager in the indictment and in the court papers. And yes, exactly. When they talk about NATO country one, again, you'll see this many times in Beresser's ruling. They're talking about Iceland. Yes. So they purport to show that Assange instructed Thordarson, Siggy the hacker, to commit computer intrusions or hacking in Iceland. The aim of this addition to the indictment was apparently to shore up and support the conspiracy charge against Assange in relation to his interactions with Chelsea Manning. Those occurred around the same time he resided in Iceland, and the authors of the indictment felt they could strengthen the case by alleging he was involved in illegal activity there as well. This activity was said to include attempts to hack into the computers of members of parliament and record their conversations. Right? Now here we go. Here's the bombshell. In fact, Thordarson, Siggy the hacker, now admits to Stunden that Assange never asked him to hack or access phone recordings of members of parliament. His new claim is that he had in fact received some files from a third party who claimed to have recorded MPs and had offered to share them with Assange without having any idea what they actually contained. He claims he never checked the contents of the files, or even if they contained audio recordings, as his third-party source suggested. He further admits the claim that Assange had instructed or asked him to access computers in order to find any such recordings is false. It's all false. It's all bogus. Okay? So when we go over here, this is the ruling by Judge Baretzer. You remember the decision on the extradition hearing was handed down this year in January 4th, 2021, right? And I wasn't in London when this was happening. I was in the virtual courtroom, right? So I was covering it virtually in the courtroom. And she, again, just to remind you, Baretzer denied the extradition. But why did she deny it? Solely based on humanitarian grounds, on health grounds, right? So she said that, look, I accept that Assange, his health is deteriorated and, he's suffering from depression and etc. And I accept that if he's extradited, this would increase the risk of suicide, right? So again, mental health is a very personal thing, but it was very important to demonstrate in court, because it's true, that this persecution against him has damaged his health physically and mentally, as it would to anyone. I mean, of course, right? This goes without saying. Who could withstand that? And the conditions in the U.S. prisons are utterly inhumane. You have to remember that if he's extradited in pretrial, right, he will be placed in most likely in Alexandria detention facility. So this is the same one, Alexandria Detention Center. This is where Chelsea Manning was also, imprisoned, and she tried to take her life. And, he'd be placed in ADSEG, administrative segregation, which is a fancy way of saying solitary confinement. This is evil. And then, he'd be found guilty because they've been trying him in the Eastern District Court in Virginia, which is, this is basically, it's a kangaroo court, because they release indictments from there against Lori Love, against Gary McKinnon, who I interviewed. It's on my website. Against Assange. They release these indictments knowing that they're going to try these people in a court where the jury is made up of CIA agents or people who have family in the intelligence community. Because that's who works there. So the jury pool is corrupted because all the that you're going to have a jury that hates the defendant. And you're going to find them guilty. And then what happens when he's found guilty, even though he didn't actually commit a crime? They'll send him to Colorado, right? ADX Colorado. So this is a federal super maximum prison. The warden of that jail has even said that it's, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said it's something like hell, basically. Yeah, it's not that's not an exaggeration, because you go in, you never see the sun again, ever, right? You're in solitary confinement for the rest of your life. And they're charging Assange, they're threatening him with 175 years. So of course, there's a huge suicide risk here. And that's the only reason that she denied the extradition. But here comes the problem. While that may be good for Assange, and I hope, they don't extradite him and it's held, the rest of the things that she agreed with are not good. So she accepts that, okay, this is bad for your health. There's a high suicide risk, but she agreed with all of the political charges. She agreed with the hacking charge, the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. She agreed with the charges of espionage, right? You have 17 counts under the Espionage Act. This is terrible for journalism. This is atrocious. This is a monstrosity. And one of the things that contributed to that is Ziggy the hacker with his bullshit testimony, with his lies. Look, I'm going to read it to you, okay? Check this out. So this is from page 33 of her ruling, right? Page 32. Just going to scroll up a bit, right? She talks over here. No, it's correct. Page 33. So point 85. This conduct would amount to offenses in English law, namely conspiracy with Miss Manning and the computer hacker's teenager. Who's teenager? This guy, Ziggy the hacker. That's who they're referring to. Okay? Lorelei, Kayla, Jeremy Hammond, Sabu, and Topieri to gain unauthorized access to a computer, contrary to Section 1 of the Criminal Law Act 1977 and Section 1 of the Computer Misuse Act 1990, and aiding and abetting the same people to gain unauthorized access to a computer, contrary to Section 1 of the Computer Misuse Act 1990. So teenager, over here is mentioned again. In relation to the computer hackers, teenager, etc., it is alleged that Mr. Assange and WikiLeaks entered into agreements with each person to gain unauthorized access to data held on computers, including parliamentary phone call audio recordings from a country identified only as NATO country 1. That's Iceland. That's Iceland. The computer of a former WikiLeaks associate teenager, the computer systems of a cybersecurity company. So this, just hold on a second over here. Do you see this over here? This is exactly what he lied about. He's admitting here in Sundit that he lied about this, right? That this idea that they wanted to access the phone recordings of MPs is false. Assange never asked him to hack or access phone recordings of MPs. So his testimony factored into this decision by Baretzer. This is extraordinary. This is a bombshell revelation, among others. Is it mentioned? Did she say anything? Did they say anything in the news? Nothing. Do you think any mainstream media covered this? I swear to God, not one mainstream news outlet covered this. It's been 2 weeks now almost. Nothing in the BBC, nothing in The Guardian. How can you not cover this? This is the trial of the century. It's not only Assange who's on trial here, right? It's not just him. It's really freedoms of the press. He knows this. WikiLeaks knows this. Everyone knows this. It's not just him, the person. It's him and press freedoms who are on trial. And they're using FBI rats who've struck up deals for immunity in cash and are now openly saying, yeah, I lied about it. So what? They're factoring that into the decision. And the mainstream media is not saying a word about this. Not a word. Go look. Go right now and look. You won't find anything from the mainstream media. And moreover, her decision, Judge Baretzer's decision, is being upheld for the moment, right? So we have a new development that just took place, that just occurred today on July 7th regarding the appeals, which I'll get to in a moment, right, in a separate video. But the case is falling apart. Like this alone should be enough to show you that there's something deeply wrong with this persecution of Julian Assange, with this indictment against him, and the ruling, right, subsequently, because the ruling has factored this falsified, this phony, this fake testimony into it, right? It's null and void. The guy is admitting, I lied. He's saying it's not true. This means the ruling is null and void. What kind of rule of law is this? What is going on here? This is shameful, man. This is shameful. I don't accept this. This is embarrassing. This is atrocious. Why? I'm a British citizen. What is my government doing here? This is unacceptable. I don't tolerate this. This is corrupt. This is scandalous. So this just goes to show you how the entire case against Assange is fake. They're grasping at straws. He has not committed any crimes. They are trying to threaten not just him, but journalists everywhere. They're saying, this is what's going to happen to you if you publish things that embarrass us, if you publish evidence of our war crimes. Not just the U.S., but their allies too, right? This is what they're doing. Even, let's be clear here, even if ultimately Assange is not extradited, and I pray he is not, this is still an ordeal for him, for his family. This is unacceptable. No one should go through this. No one should go through this. 10 years of persecution for what? For what? What about the people who committed the crimes in the documents? Who tortured people, who kidnapped people, who committed war crimes? Where are their trials? You don't think they're a priority? The ones who actually committed crimes, heinous crimes, murder, rendition, kidnapping, in the name of the U.S. government and their allies, right? No. They have to build this phony case against Assange using fake testimony by convicted sociopaths. I mean, this is unacceptable. This is unreal. And just I'm telling you, because when I was in London in the court, I mean, I remember, like, dude, there are so many expert witnesses. being brought forward by the defense, which is good. And actually, there are so many that the judge tried to hurry it up. She was you could tell that she was impatient. Like that just gives you an idea of how many people are up in arms about this case. How many people realize that this is wrong? Like Noam Chomsky, Andy Worthington. I mean, you had, I can't even count how many lawyers, doctors, historians, like really famous, really qualified, expert witnesses coming to defend Assange. Do you know how many expert witnesses the U.S. prosecution had? I think it was 2 or 3. 2 or 3. I mean, a handful, literally a handful. This whole case is built on lies. From start to finish, it's built on lies. And this shows you that this so-called hacking charge, it's nothing but an attempt to discredit Assange and to smear him and attack him in the court of public opinion. And what does that mean? That means that we must confront them in the court of public opinion. There are several people who have said that this case will be won in the court of public opinion. That's why we have to do what we're doing right now. We have to be up in arms. We have to expose this. We have to talk about this because no one else is, right? It's not just wrong, and we have a duty to talk about it. But we have to fight extra hard because no one is talking about it. The mainstream media is not talking about it. Even many in so-called independent media are too scared. They're so brainwashed, they don't know their asses from their elbows. They think that, Assange helped Trump. And what nonsense. You don't know anything. You don't understand anything. This is about press freedoms. This is about people who expose war crimes, the biggest war crimes, the most heinous crimes imaginable, right? So, I just want to say also how there are a lot of things that are coming to mind, right? He's not the only one, Ziggy, the hacker. You also have to consider that this Sabu, he's another FBI informant, right? He's a criminal hacker who also began working with the FBI. He was also involved in this and involved in making up these testimonies and conduct against Assange, right? And it's incredible because these people cannot be trusted. They're only doing this for immunity. They're only doing this for money. Not because Assange actually committed a crime, okay? And you have to remember that you had a trial in the UK in Southwark court, in Southwark, right? Regarding, I think it was Lulzsec at the time. And Assange had nothing to do with that case, right? If he was a co-conspirator in that case, why wasn't he involved in it? He's not even named in it at all, right? This happened years ago. But now those people are coming along saying, "Oh yeah, he worked with us," and we helped him. What? They just all fabricated. There are so many conflicts of interest. There's so many lies. It's incredible. It's really incredible. And what can I say, man? This is all, and it's all an attempt to uphold this narrative that Assange is a hacker and not a journalist. That's all it is, right? That's all it is. And again, even the things that they talk about, like breaking into an encrypted file from a bank or conversations of MPs. Dude, not only did Assange never do this, even if he had, and he didn't, but even if he had, hypothetically, that does not take away from the fact that he has the right to publish what he published. The Americans, they talk about how great their constitution is, how great their freedom is, right? They say, oh, this is a free country. Yeah, really? Where's the freedom of speech? Where's the freedom of press? This is nonsense. So they're trying to smear Assange's reputation, call him a hacker when he did nothing. And this is all nonsense. This is all bogus. And you literally have the witnesses coming out and saying it's not true, and no one says a word. No one says a word. This entire ruling over here should be thrown out, right? It should be thrown out.